Exposure refers to how much light falls on the camera's image sensor. It's important to have the correct exposure or you will get a dull underexposed or bright overexposed image. Two factors affect a camera's exposure: the shutter speed and the aperture. The shutter speed is how long the shutter is open for, and the aperture is how wide the shutter or iris opens. These need to be balanced to get a correct exposure, and each influences the characteristics of a photo. When shooting in auto mode, you will not have control over either of these. The camera will decide on which values to choose. This makes it difficult to get control over the look of a photo and makes it difficult to be creative. Metering modes are the way the camera looks at the light in the scene and decides what exposure to set. You can set these manually, with the different modes being better suited for different situations. Evaluative mode looks at the light in the whole image and takes an average of all this light. This mode is well suited to the majority of situations where you want most of the image to be fairly well exposed. However, if there are high contrasting areas of light and dark, and one of these areas contains an important part of the image, these are likely to be under or overexposed. In this case, it is better to use the second mode, spot or partial mode. This mode takes a reading from a smaller area or a spot in the centre of the image and ignores the light in the rest of the image. This means that it is easier to get a good exposure for a specific area of an image that you want, especially if the lighting conditions are difficult, such as for a backlit subject. Center-weighted metering is halfway between spot and evaluative. It gives the most attention to the center part of the image, but also takes into account the amount of light around the edge of the center of the image, but to a lesser extent. This is a good mode to use if you have a main focus in the center of the image, which you want to be the most well exposed, but also a background, for example, which you want a fairly good exposure for.